without further ado, I am going to go ahead and lob this over the fence to Dr. B with a basic question. Today, we're talking about tackling challenging behaviors with joy by celebrating mistakes.
Mm.
What does that mean?
Well, I think I want to start with a question for our incredible audience that is now at 250. We've got East Coast, West Coast, North, South, rural, urban, Alaska. So many people here. I even think I see a tribal program. Yay, yay. Love seeing you here, Susan. And rural Utah. Love our friends at rural Utah. Here's my question for you. When you think of the phrase tackling challenging behaviors, how many times does that phrase and the word joy go into the same sentence for you? I'm curious. Anybody think about joy when they think about tackling? It doesn't, Melissa. I loved your honesty. Way to be honest, Melissa. Nope, never. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, here's my challenge for the day. By the end of this very short webinar, you will think differently about challenging behaviors in their relationship to joy. 0%. We can only go up, Nikisha. So I am going to present to you the idea that as teachers, our joy comes from teaching, right? We love to teach. That's why we do this. If we would treat behavior the same way we treat math and reading, we would get so much more joy out of working with children around behaviors that don't fit into the classroom exactly the way we want them to. There are a lot of ways to do this. We teach a number of different courses here in our certification for our credential for behavior management. Mine is Trust First. Nick is going to talk about his. In my course, we learn 10 skills that will help you find joy when you're managing behaviors. That is the whole point of it. So today I picked one, and it is mistakes. So I think of most of our behavior challenges as mistakes. With 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, if you're thinking of those as intentional evil, we need to really reframe your thinking. Most children at that age are learning, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're making mistakes throughout their day. Mistakes about remembering rules, mistakes about controlling bodies, mistakes about what works at school versus what works at home. And the way that I like to think about this is we just celebrate mistakes. Instead of thinking, the word mistake automatically is negative because it starts with mis, which is the negative prefix, but we turn these into positives because as teachers, our favorite thing to do is to teach. So when you make a mistake, you can stop everything and say, whoa, I had the opportunity to teach you. You ran to the carpet. For safety, we walk to the carpet. So I am going to teach you how to walk to the carpet. And this is done with full sincerity. This is not sarcasm. This is not calling out a kiddo to humiliate them. This is legitimate teaching. We would never punish a child for telling us 2 + 2 is 5. We would go back and reteach 2 + 2. But we take behavior and our expectations are they should already know it. I already told them the rules are on the wall. We went over it the first week of school or whatever our rationale is. And then we get into this blaming cycle of you should know better and, self-control and all kinds of other kind of spin out sort of thinking. So today I just want you to embrace one simple thought because we only have 30 minutes. And that is that you're going to start thinking of behavior management as mistakes that you are going to reteach. Okay, that's going to be my short sell, Nick. I'm going to pass it to you because you've got an even more fun way to talk about this.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. B. I was riveted. You had so many great insights. And I'm just thinking about all the teachers and people that have been teachers that are on the webinar today. Some of whom may be like in the classroom or just stepped away from a very challenging situation in their classroom to hopefully get some useful tips from us. And so I just want to honor the fact that a lot of times when people say, well, if your class is out of control or challenging, then just do this, this, and this, and everything will be great. I think what your point is, Deb, and mine too, is children that are in the preschool classroom, they're in a laboratory where they're learning how to be a person in the world, and they're learning that from play. And what is play? I mean, play is full of mistakes. It's full of challenges and things, and trying out different ways of interacting with other people, and it's all completely intuitive and organic. And as teachers, we can sometimes get into a mindset where we're feeling like, wow, my class is something like misbehaving, and that's a bad reflection on me, and people are seeing my class, and I feel my ego gets all triggered, and so I've got to get these kids under control. And I think the reality of having been a teacher myself for many years, teaching preschool, and then also teaching over 30 years of music and movement in preschool classrooms, um, it's very, very messy, and there's no like clear, clean, perfect way to manage your class. It's going to be a series of joyful mistakes. But again, like you, Deb, I'm not in love with the word mistake, because it's like, is it really a mistake, or is it just the children are in the place where they need to be growing? And our job is to make sure they're safe, and to give them graduated series of choices that allows them to find their way into growing and maturing. And while all that's happening, they're gaining social and emotional skills and literacy, learning how to recognize emotions in themselves and in other people, and impulse control. And the result is that they are going to have these big leaps of, all moving towards school readiness, and its cognitive development, and all the other forms of development that they're getting just naturally as just being in the classroom. And then, of course, for me, because my specialty is music and movement, and interactive music and storytelling, I get to pop into a classroom and take hold of a group of kids and see if I can get them engaged in an activity and keep them engaged. And when I'm doing that, I run into a lot of class management challenges. In fact, I was teaching some classes last week that were super, super challenging, and uh, I really got to put my experience and my techniques to the test. And it's humbling. It's very humbling. That's one thing I like to keep in mind, is teachers that are in the classroom all day long with children, they're dealing with real world situations, and there's no panacea, there's no like thing that solves everything. But I think what's so great about, Deb, your course, Trust First, is you're setting up teachers, their expectations and their approach to help facilitate an opportunity for growth and development. And I think that's what I try to do too in my teaching and my course, where I have a whole section on class management techniques that apply to music and movement time, and also to just general class management in general. So toss the ball back to you, Dr. B.
Excellent, excellent. So part of what we want to do is figure out practical ways, right? Conversation is great. We can have a really good conversation about development and how we need to be patient, and we can think about mistakes as an opportunity for learning. But what does that really look like? We've got people on this call, 305 people on this call, and they spend every day with children in classrooms, and they want to know what they can do tomorrow differently. So in a 30-minute webinar, we can't give you a breadth of information, but we can give you some nuggets to take with you. So Nick, can you give folks one skill they could use tomorrow?
Yes. And I think it's kind of, we're talking about joy, and we're talking about trusting and interacting with children that have extremely challenging classroom behaviors. And so what I do first of all, when I'm presenting music, or when you're presenting anything in the group, you kind of have two modes of being in your classroom with your students. You've got the mode where there's sort of like an open time where they're able to choose different activities and interact with each other freely. And then you have your focus time where they're in a group time with you and you have something you want to present to them, and you hopefully they can be attentive and take it in and interact with it in a way that's kind of part of what your intention is. So when you are presenting something where you really would like your students to engage and interact and be focused and attentive, then I think it's super important to approach it with a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and with your vocal inflection, your facial expression, your body language, you're communicating, you're 100% engaged with what it is that you're presenting. For me, it's music and movement. For you, it could be all kinds of different things. So you're communicating that, and the students are going to pick up on that. So that's number one. And then you want to make sure that what you're presenting is engaging. And if you notice that your students are not engaging with what you're presenting, then don't present that right then. Present something else that's going to be more appropriate at that time. Because you might, have your students in the morning when they come in with just bursting with energy, and they need something physical to do. They need to move their bodies. Or it may be the afternoon on a hot day. They just came in off the playground. They're all sweaty and hot. They don't feel like jumping around and doing something really physical. So you need to present something that's appropriate for that time of the day. And there's, the whole spectrum of different student populations. And you're going to have to adapt, and notice what your group, how they're responding, and adjust on the fly with what you're presenting. I think that's something that I really try to pay attention to, is like, I'm seeing the group, seeing how they're reacting. If they're not engaging with it, or if a large percentage of them aren't engaging with it, there's a good chance what I'm presenting isn't the right thing for them at that moment. And maybe I need to go, switch to something else and then come back to that other thing. Maybe I need to put some more time into preparation with that, or choose something that's going to be more appropriate for my group.
Great. So being flexible and being
Mhm.
intentional and present. And I think what's cool about what you cover in your course is using music and movement to do that, because you can keep those tricks in your back pocket, right? Those little activities, those little movement activities that kind of help to re-engage kiddos. So I think that's a really good one. I think I'm going to approach this, and I'm going to take a little risk here. So let's see what happens. I think we're recording, so this is extra risky. Somebody put in the chat a challenging behavior that plagues you, like often. Don't give me the one where like it's this super extreme thing that requires a sit down with parents, not that kind of stuff. Just your day-to-day that we want to find joy. I'm going to show you how to find joy in the behavior. Throwing
Mhm.
shoes, spitting, hit staff, crawling under the table. Okay, so many. All right. I'm going to put biting aside, because I think that is its own animal because of the potential physical harm. So I am going to put that one aside. Okay, so let's do throwing stuff, because clearly we've got future baseball players in our classrooms. They're throwing everything. Let's take a step back, and I want to put this in context. So I'm going to show you something that you can do tomorrow to find joy. But I am going to tell you that this is in the context of having created a class that is based on trust. And that is my philosophy about teaching. You create classrooms that are trust-centered, and you create children that will do what you need them to do because they trust you. That will be true most of. When that isn't true, that is an opportunity that requires attention over here if it's something very extreme. But generally speaking, you will create. It doesn't mean your kids never misbehave. Make sure you understand what I'm saying. We're not creating a classroom of drones that don't have any varied personalities and things that they learn at home that they shouldn't do at school. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you've got a classroom that's trust-based, you have built in these systems that allow you to respond in a way that's very different from what you are probably doing now. And your whole insides will be different. And your persona, your energy will emit out to the kids, and they will respond to you because of that. So right now, your frustration, even if you couch it in a smile, is still frustration to a kid. They're not fooled. So, my favorite example, if a kiddo doesn't sit down, is for a teacher to say something like, "Would you please sit down?" Which in writing is a really polite sentence, and in actuality is extremely curt and humiliating to a child. But it's because your frustration is so much. So let's take throwing things. Okay, you set up this classroom. It's trust-based. You've set down the philosophy, your priority in your work with these children, and you're going to tell them this intentionally, is that their safety is number one for you. More important than anything you're going to do with them is keeping them safe, because their parents love them and they dropped them off in your care, and you're going to return them to their parents safely, because that's your job as their teacher. So safety, they already know. They've got this ingrained in them. Throwing my shoe, we've automatically created an unsafe environment. So we know that. So now we have to stop and reteach. And I'm going to make up a scenario because I don't have all the details. I am sitting on the carpet and I don't want to do reading time, and I throw my shoe because I know that's going to distract you from whatever you're doing. So in the moment, you've got one thing to deal with, and that is a child that might need extra attention. That is a part that is keeping everybody else and keeping the class running. But that moment is also about finding joy in a child who can't keep his shoes on and believes throwing the shoe is going to be helpful, and it's an unsafe moment. So as a teacher, I say, "Oh, Joey, I am so excited. You just gave me an opportunity to do what I love to do most, which is teach. So let's go pick the shoe up. Somebody tell me, where does the shoe go? On my head? On my nose?" Now they'll have fun with this. Some of them will say yes, whatever. Shoes go on our feet. Yes, on our feet. Do you know how to put your shoes on, or do you need my support? Sometimes we know how to put our shoes on and sometimes we don't. At that point, I mean, these can go in a number of different directions. Joey might say, "I don't know how to put my shoes on." No problem. I will help you learn how to put your shoes on. And we can even practice this. And you can find a moment during the day to practice putting the shoes on. You mean what you say what you mean. You're going to actually teach Joey how to put his shoes on, and not in a sarcastic way, not in a way that's punishment. It is legitimately teaching him. Now, does he really know how to put them on? Doesn't matter. He's told you he doesn't, and he wants your support. Give it to him. Over time, what you are demonstrating for your kids is that you say what you mean what you say, and that there's always opportunity to learn and grow. The next time that he gets frustrated and wants to throw his shoe, he might still do it. These are not cure-alls to every little behavior, but the likelihood over time of that child believing that you believe in him and that you care about his growth and development is through the roof. And he is far more likely to keep those shoes on his feet and use his words to tell you that he does not want to do reading time or whatever the situation is. But let me tell you the bigger value to that scenario. You have just demonstrated for every other child in that class that you mean what you say what you mean, and you're willing to teach. And that is where you build the trust environment for all of the 20 kids in there, not just Joey. And once you start doing that, the entire aura of your classroom changes from punishment and consequence to celebration and learning. And over time, those fringy behaviors like spitting, I saw spitting in there, that's another good one, become fewer and fewer and fewer. And when they do happen, you are equipped to handle them in a way that is new and energizing, and not in anger and frustration, in joy. But you have to sincerely find joy in teaching kids. And if teaching a kiddo to put his shoes on isn't joyful for you, might not be the right job. Because you do want them to know how to put their shoes on and keep them on. You want them to learn how to use their words and not use their spit. I mean, we just went through COVID. We could teach all kinds of stuff about germs and spit. Kids would be very well in line to learn that, and to learn about how we make people sick when we spit on them. Like, those are things that we can use as learning opportunities. I'm going to give you my example of turning challenging behavior into a joyful moment. And I'm going to use a bad word. So get ready. And we're recording this, but it's okay. I'm an AP. I'm a brand new assistant principal, and I have a very absent principal, just FYI. So it was a very hard thing for me to adapt to, because I didn't have really any example. And I had some new teachers. And I had a new teacher come into my classroom crying. And she said, so-and-so just used the F word in my class, 2nd grade. And what happened was they were in class. We are in a suburban neighborhood. And he stands up and goes, there's a fucking deer outside the classroom, outside the window. And she did not know what to do with that. So I pulled him and I brought his parents in. I mean, I'm thinking like, what am I doing? I'm talking about using the F word in class to a 7-year-old. I was like mind boggling. Although some people on this call, I know that wouldn't be mind boggling. I saw the chat. And I've been there too. And so I talked to mom and dad, and here was their reaction. We have no idea where they learned that word. And as soon as that was the reaction, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be the solution, because clearly they knew where he had learned the word. And it wasn't going to be in talking to his parents that was going to be a solution. And what I did learn in that moment is if I punish him, he is learning that his parents do a bad thing. And now I've just also humiliated him in relationship to his parents. Not a good way to go. So instead, I brought him to the front of the building and I showed him the doorway. And I said, see this doorway? When you walk through this doorway, the F word, we don't say it. Outside of this doorway, in your own space, if it's okay at home, it's okay with me. Up to you. In this space, we don't say it. Every day I'm going to meet you here in the morning. I'm going to shake your hand and welcome you and remind you that you're walking through the doorway. And now the F word is no longer in our vocabulary. And I did that. For 1 week, every single morning, I was at that door. Like I said, mean what you say what you mean. And I said, welcome, Tyler. Remember, we're walking through the doorway. Can't say the F word inside this doorway. And I did that until he said to me, Dr. B, I get it. Can I just come in the school by myself now? And that was it. So that's a kind of a big investment of my time. He needed to know I had his back. I was going to help him learn, and we weren't going to punish that away. And that was a really big way of dealing with something that had really destroyed his teacher. Now, we could argue about the reaction there, but that doesn't matter. She was new and she wasn't sure what to do. You can do that with every single thing that you all are putting in the chat. Yeah, Susan, we have to pick that scenario apart. It can't just be that sentence. There's so much more in that scenario than just that sentence. But there are ways of creating environments that are acceptable, but you got to teach those behaviors, and you have to know that not every kiddo is learning that at home. It doesn't mean that we offend their home life. We're just teaching them that what they're going to be doing when they come into the classroom. So that we only have 4 minutes. I'm sorry, Rachel. That was too long of an example, but I thought, that's an extreme one.
Well, I know we promised to do Q&A, but what we're going to do is we're going to put our form in here, and any of you who have questions, and we've been keeping track of the ones that were in the chat, we're going to put them in the forum. We're going to reach back out to you. We'll have a little Q&A that we'll include with our follow-up email, but I want to give Nick a chance to provide one of his examples, because I know we brought one.
Oh, which one are you referring to, Rachel?
I think he did. He shared it before
you
me.
had a
He went
video that you
before
were
me.
showing earlier. Did you want to
Oh,
walk through
video.
that
You
at
want to
all?
see the video?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. This is me teaching in the classroom. Good morning. Buenos dias. Big rock. Roca grande. Waterfall. Caída de agua. Little boat. Pequeño saltar, 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 saltar. Shake your hands. Mueve tus manos, tap your knees. Toca tus rodillas, stamp your feet. Pisa los pies, jump, jump. Saltar, 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 saltar. Okay, friends, show me how a tiger walks. Please show me how a tiger walks. Tigre, tigre, please show me how a tiger walks when Tigre is walking in the jungle. All right, let's move our nose room to go. Please show me how a bird can fly. Pa-do, please show me how a bird can fly when Pa-do flies up in the sky. Good job, friends. Please show jumping, 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 stop. Brinca, 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 para. Jumping, stop. Brinca, para. Take a rest, descansa. Take a rest, descansa. Jump up, brinca hacia arriba. All right, it goes on for a minute or two more, but I think that's a nice example of when you've been working with the same students for a long time and you're working out all kinds of challenging behaviors. From looking at the chat, there's such extreme behaviors sometimes that the teachers are dealing with, and I can't help but think that sometimes you have to call in the cavalry and hopefully get some assistance with some of those things. But I think, my thought is one of the things that these children are going through is all the things that you're talking about, Deb, you're showing children how to be a person in the world and eventually to be a grown-up. And they're learning that. The only way they can learn that is from your example and how you are interacting with them, even under extreme conditions and extreme behaviors. So every time you're able to deal with a child that's throwing a shoe or spitting or cursing or whatever the thing is, by keeping calm and working through it in a way that's demonstrating your care for them and your ability to go through something strenuous and be able to handle it, that is such a powerful opportunity for them to learn from your example. And that's exactly what's happening. And sometimes they're not having examples in other aspects of their lives to follow, and you could be the only one who's demonstrating that. And it's an incredible responsibility and an incredible gift that we have the opportunity to give to these children in those situations, I think.
And what we might end with, Rachel, is a reminder that when you registered for this webinar, you've registered for all 6 of the series. Okay. So safety is being put in this chat over and over and over again. So here's what I'll make a commitment to do. I think I can fit it into next time, is to focus a little bit on safety in particular with what I'm talking about, and try to make sure that I give you some more specifics. We're out of time, so I would go into detail, but let me just end with this, and that is that safety is a learned skill. It isn't just telling kids, don't run. Some kids have to learn how to walk. Their bodies want to run. They can't help it. Crawling under the table, that's giving some kind of satisfaction they're getting from that. And it isn't to diss you. They don't really care about that. It is for their own, something is being fulfilled. So we will try to hit safety next time a little bit more. But I put my email in the chat too. I'm always available, and we get excited about teaching this stuff. I love it. So I'm starting our Trust First this week. Super excited about it. Obviously, we can go deeper when you take the class. These webinars, I do the best I can to give you some nuggets. So enjoy. Go ahead, Rachel, take it away.
Okay, fabulous. I mean, you basically did our wrap up, everybody. We will be sending out an email with this recording as well as links to all of our longer form courses where you can go deep into this kind of subject matter with our experts. They're here for you. That's why we built the Academy. It's for you. So we hope that you'll join us for class and for our full classroom management credential, which also includes a bit about transitions. That is an excellent class as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of the 3 of us, and we will be back next month with Hayes Greenfield, who talks about his sound method for managing transitions effectively in the classroom, as well as Dr. B with a little bit more about Trust First. We're going to teach by asking next month. So we'll see you then. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you, guys.